Et les députés, avant de parler et nous raconter leur expérience, ils souhaitent montrer une vidéo qui a été faite à Gaza par l'association Croissant Rouge. Et on peut envoyer directement la vidéo maintenant.
القذائف بقعد قدام السيارة 5-5 يا عمي بلاش تمرق انزل يا هذا الله اكبر جوا ولا كانوا معي بروح خلاص ولك شيطان ولا بقبض انت كمان يا هاني يا ولد طلع فيا ايوه ايش يا عمو طلع في هيني خافش ايش فيك حاجه طيب طلع فيه خليك دمك طلع فيه ايوه ايش اسمه؟ محمد ايش؟ اسم ابوك ايش؟ محمد اسماعيل ايش؟ البطش؟ محمد اسماعيل البطش ابو جهاد افتح الباب افتح ابو جهاد افتح الباب افتح سيبك لا نزل ايوه روح فيه روح افهم عندك من بدل قالوا لي بعد نص ساعه من طلب هذا فصل قال لي بعد نص ساعه انا طلب مزاج مين ده يا بلاش اكثر من 11 ساعه شو بسوي انا صاير ريح حسيت هذه فوق خلي تسوي قرب تروحنا قرب لي هنا ارفع لفوق يلا ده جوا وهات الكل تبعنا يلا اطلع يلا اطلع بسرعه بسرعه مرقوا وهات الترولي تبعنا يلا خلينا نطلع بالعجله نجيب المكان هذي كمان ساعتين جايين خلي الحاجه نزل كيف يجي نزل هاي افهم ابنك بالي طاهر ابنك بالي طاهر ابنك بالي واحد ارفع طيب اسحب عليك يا طاهر اسحب عليك حتى فيك اسحب شباب معكم جاهز
مش خايف اقعد انت عليه
روح انا بسيب لك اياها روح تعال وين رايح منزلينه تحت بدنا نوصله وقع شوف الحماله الثاني هات كويس حاضر ماشي كيف انا بصل لوين ما هو عندها لوين هذه انا هات هذه كيف اطلع يا عم انتم ما قسمتوا كم واحد
يلا على الاكسجين هذا على الاكسجين زي السريع زي السريع
شو اسمه جامعة الصحابة
À partir de maintenant, la vidéo, il y a que des photos, on va continuer à les faire dérouler et je donne directement la parole à Martina Anderson.
The Israeli Minister of Foreign Affairs refused 13 members of the European Parliament from GUE NGL entry into Gaza, claiming we were not providing assistance. As head of the delegation, I appealed, reminding the Israeli government of the financial assistance the EU provides to the region and how it would be beneficial if members of the European Parliament were able to report back to the Parliament the scale of the reconstruction efforts required and the financial support needed and witnessed by our own eyes. He replied saying that we were not providing immediate assistance, hence we would not be getting into Gaza. The irony was not lost on us when we visited the Red Crescent Society and were shown warehouses full of immediate relief provisions for Gaza ready to go, but remained stacked and packed because of the blockade. In 2005, while Israel removed its 8,000 settlers from Gaza, along with the military infrastructure that protected their illegal presence, Israel maintained control of Gaza's airspace, water, the amount of electricity, population register, and enforced a blockade restricting the movements of goods and services and people. The human devastation caused by Israel's 51 days of onslaught on Gaza resulted in almost 2,200 people being killed, of which 50 were Hamas fighters. The rest were mainly little children and women. During our stay in Palestine, we visited the Al-Makast Hospital in East Jerusalem. We saw the injured from Gaza getting treated there and spoke with a 3-year-old child, a little boy who lost his leg. His father was beside him in a bed. He lost his leg. And his mother was in another hospital. She had lost both her legs. There were over 11,000 injured during the Israeli attack on Gaza, and almost 4,000 of those injured were little children. We spoke to UNRWA and the Minister for Relief, as well as other ministers, plus the Palestinian Prime Minister, and they showed us the scale of the destruction, which led us to conclude that the insanity of what happened in Gaza must never be repeated nor forgotten. The attack on Gaza ran parallel with the Israeli oppression in the rest of the occupied state of Palestine. with the advancement of settlements, home demolitions, movement restrictions, military raids on 1,573 homes, and the detention of 1,753 Palestinians in the West Bank. There are now 35 Palestinian parliamentarians in prison, 33 of which are under administrative detention, which is otherwise known as internment. Israel must be held accountable for violating international humanitarian law. The impunity it enjoys for violations of human rights must end. Under the 4th Geneva Convention, Israel, as an occupying power, is forbidden to settle its own population in the occupied territory. Yet that is precisely what it has been doing for years and years. Israel's settlements are expanding in the most fertile and resource-rich part of Palestine. Despite having been condemned regularly for settlement expansions by the UN and the EU, who do not recognise Israel's sovereignty over any of the territory it occupies, Israel has a measure of both bodies who merely condemn Israel but has never sanctioned it. Hence, the settlement construction continues unhindered. Only last week, when Israel grabbed another 1,000 acres of Palestinian land, the European Council reiterated that it would not recognise any change to the pre-1967 borders and condemned the settlements as illegal under international law. Yet evictions, home demolitions, land grab, deportation and the South Africanisation of Palestine, with the constructions of apartheid walls, roads and buses and settlement constructions are all part and parcel of Israel's ongoing violations of international law. Given that Israel signed the Geneva Convention to secure the Israel-EU Association Agreement, the legal framework for EU-Israel relations, Article 2 states that any violation of human rights would result in the Association Agreement being suspended. Does the EU not consider the massacre of little children in Gaza as a violation of human rights? The EU condemns illegal settlements as a violation of international law, yet the association agreement remains. We MEPs who went to Palestine call on the European Council and Commission, plus fellow MEPs from all parties, to play a constructive political role in the Middle East and become active players in ending the occupation of Palestine within an agreed time frame. Palestinians have been negotiating for over 21 years. When we were there, we were told that the negotiations are over. The Palestinians demand an end to the occupation and seek international support for this and for the two-state solutions based on the 1967 borders. Those of us elected to the European Parliament to make and uphold law, elected to set standards and to create equality, peace and just societies where children are cherished, not ones where they perish, must support this demand. Palestinians have the right to sovereignty, to freedom and to live with dignity and respect. Go míle mé agah go léir. Thank you. Niacus.
Dear friends, first of all, I would like to reiterate our support to the recognition of a viable independent Palestinian state on the 1967 borders in the West Bank, Gaza and East Jerusalem, with East Jerusalem as its capital, living in peace alongside Israel. It is also of highly importance to underline that as long as Israel refuses the recognition of a Palestinian as an independent state, peace will never prevail in the Middle East. Apart from the meetings that Comrade Martin Anderson has already mentioned, our visit to Palestine gave us the opportunity to meet with members of the Palestinian Legislative Council and the Knesset, the Parliament of Israel, as well as activists from both Palestinian and Israeli human rights and peace organizations. We have constructive meetings with Israeli organizations, including Rabbins for Human Rights, GUE, is organization the people who refuse to serve in the Israeli army in the occupied areas of Palestine, the Public Committee Against Torture in Israel, as well as joint organizations like the Parents Circle Families Forum, families that have lost children in the conflict, and Combatants for Peace, an organization that brings together former Israeli soldiers and Palestinian political prisoners who are now coming together to work for peace. This common struggle of Palestinian Israelis is hugely encouraging. They are the types of organizations that we should support. No peace process has existed without an international impact and pressure. That's why it's important for all of us around the world who want to see an end to this apartheid and occupation to cooperate with the progressive organization of Palestinians and Israelis. As we are told, there is a huge shift to the extreme right in Israeli society. Democracy is under pressure, and human rights and freedoms, including of Palestinians who are Israeli citizens, are being violated. At the same time, just like in our countries, there are many voices of resistance against the dominant ideology and government policies. But we must underline that the Israelis will have the strength to fight for an end to the Israeli occupation of Palestine and defend human rights, for both Israelis and Palestinians live in a climate of pressure by Netanyahu's government and the majority of the media. As GUE NGL, we welcome the efforts to forge unity among the Palestinian and Israeli people. We extend our support to the Israeli political parties, movements, and people standing up against the Israeli aggression and calling for a peaceful solution, and we express our solidarity with the Palestinian people who are suffering from the occupation and ongoing colonialization. We call on international society and the EU to take measures in order to extend pressure on Israel to end the aggressive military invasion and their settlement policy in the occupied Palestinian territory. We want peace for the Palestinian people, the Israeli people, and all the peoples of the troubled Middle East. To make this visible, impunity and settlement policy must end. The occupation of Palestine must end. Peace means freedom to Palestine. Thank you.
Good afternoon to everyone. Very shortly, I just want to emphasize one specific aspect of the things that we are committed to promote, which is the BDS program, as you know, a human rights coalition which works toward the boycott, divestment and sanctions. Martin already spoke about one of the main aims, which has to do with the suspension of the association agreement between EU and Israel, but there are also other objectives which I think we need to take on board and to reinforce and to make part of it. We need to guarantee that in this situation of occupying territories of apartheid, we need to guarantee that Palestine has also the right to have a South African moment, in the sense that is not only the association agreement, but also a full military embargo. We cannot forget that a lot of research and investment is done in order to develop new arms, new weapons. We cannot forget forget how people in Palestine, mainly in the Gaza Strip, is being used as experiment to test these new weapons which are being developed. But also because in peacemaking processes, we shouldn't sell arms to conflict zones, and that's something which unfortunately still happen. And an additional thing is to ban all the products produced under the occupied territories. And banning is not labeling, as the European Union seems to be more interested in doing, is really ban all the products which have some connection with it. Finally, over the negotiations for Horizon 2020, GUE and NGL table amendments in order to forbid the use of public funds, European funds, in cooperation with institutions which are in the occupied territories. And it means Golan Heights, Gaza Strip, West Bank, including Jerusalem. There were some guidelines published by the European Commission in July 2013, and unfortunately, in November 2013, the European Commission, together with the Israeli government, started to develop a new cooperation system trying to avoid this. In the moment it was introduced with a legally binding character in the Horizon 2020, we need to guarantee that no public money, no EU public money goes directly to these corporations, because we need, as I said, to guarantee that Palestine has a South Africa moment, which means full isolation in all fields. Otherwise, this process will not have a solution.
Merci beaucoup à Marisa Mathias. On peut, les dernières minutes qui restent, je dirais, de donner la parole aux journalistes. Le reste de la délégation, il est assis ici en première file, et vous pouvez poser les questions à qui vous voulez. S'il y a des questions.
François Bianchi, News.tt. I had a question about hospitals. I know that you weren't in Gaza, but maybe you have some news about hospitals. The main problem in hospitals, except for the emergency, was during the war that the normal treatment weren't enabled to do. People that have cancer or other normal disease wasn't treated because every hospital was an emergency zone with people. Do you have any news on that? And on the medical equipment that should pass on the border between Israel and Gaza. During the war, it was forbidden or it was difficult to pass. Is that the situation changed or not? Thank you.
There were 17 hospitals in total destroyed, and over 55 health clinics as well. And therefore that is putting a lot of pressure on those people who are trying to deal with the amount of injured that we have in the region. Some have been able to get to hospitals in the Middle East, or in the West Bank, sorry, and we had seen some of the injured in the Al-Makast hospital, but unfortunately the scale of those who are injured and those that we were seeing would demonstrate that the need for the reconstruction and for the help and for particularly the provisions that is required to get into Gaza. And that's what disturbed us when we went to the Red Crescent Society, because we've seen warehouses full of provisions that would be of great assistance even in hospitals, and yet trying to get access into Gaza for those kind of relief agencies is very, very difficult. So the situation is dire. They are dealing with 11,000 injuries, and many of them are amputees. And therefore, the conditions then that you talk about, on top of that, cancer, Alzheimer's, all of the other treatment that is required for the elderly and the sick, is putting severe pressure on the provisions that they have and on the doctors and nurses and those that are trying to cure and help the injured.
Autre question? Brian.
Thank you. Brian Maguire, Euronet Plus. This probably won't be a very popular question. What role has, what responsibility has Hamas got to accept for this destruction?
Well, what we had coming up to before the onslaught was the formation of a unity government from Fatah and Hamas. And prior to that, we heard Israeli representatives and others telling people that they didn't have a partner because of what was happening in Gaza. And at the very moment that the unity government was formed, at the very moment when Kerry was having political talks and the Israelis walked away, at that moment we had an onslaught in Gaza. And there's no military equivalence between the might of Israel and what happened. What we witnessed there was heart-wrenching. And based on our common humanity, it's in the interest of us here, as well as in the interest of the Middle East, for us to end the occupation in Gaza. You cannot have international law that defines occupation, defines illegal settlements as being illegal in terms of international and humanitarian law, and yet we observe it and we watch it and we do nothing more than condemn it. So therefore the responsibility for those little children in their thousands that have been maimed and those who have been killed is with the occupier who occupies that territory. And under international and humanitarian law, that occupation has been condemned, and we are told that the UN and the EU does not recognise it. It's time we did much, much more than just condemn. We must put a stop to it, and we must apply ourselves to ensure that whatever happens in the future, we never have another Gaza being attacked like that again. And if we don't forget, I will never, ever forget. And I come from the north, and we had a terrible conflict, and we hurt each other, and there were a lot of people killed. And I will never forget what I seen, and that was without getting access to Gaza. Peace is difficult. It's a difficult peace process, but you have to have a partner in peace. And the Palestinians need the Israelis to negotiate in good faith and to have a partner in peace.
Merci Martina. On a encore quelques minutes, donc si vous avez encore des
questions. May I follow up just quickly?
Okay, go.
Thank you. I'm also from the north.
I know you are.
So I understand the conflict very well. How do you perceive Israel's right to self-defense in this context, given that Hamas has launched so many rockets? I'm not disputing the humanity of this. I'm talking about Israel's right to defend itself excessively in this case, no doubt. How do you defend that?
I'm going to answer your question in Spanish, if it's not a problem for you, because I want to be very precise. Sí. Se está abriendo paso un discurso que es extremadamente peligroso y que debemos denunciar, que es el discurso de la equidistancia entre dos bandos. Creo que los datos hablan por sí mismos. Israel reconoce haber recibido 69 bajas en este conflicto, de las cuales 66 son soldados, son personal militar. Según datos de las Naciones Unidas, las bajas palestinas son 2.101, de los cuales 1.460 son civiles y más de 400 son menores de edad, son niños. En un contexto así, con unos datos así, establecer una suerte de equivalencia entre los palestinos y los israelíes sería como establecer una suerte de equivalencia o neutralidad entre los héroes judíos del gueto de Varsovia que se enfrentaron al ejército alemán y el propio ejército alemán. La comunidad internacional no puede permanecer equidistante ante este conflicto. La equidistancia es dar la razón a Israel. La equidistancia es dar la razón a un país, a un Estado que incumple la Carta de las Naciones Unidas. La equidistancia equidistancia es dar la razón a un Estado que recibió la orden del Consejo de Seguridad de las Naciones Unidas en su resolución 242 de abandonar los territorios ocupados. Cualquier discurso que establezca una suerte de equivalencia o equidistancia entre palestinos e israelíes es un discurso que va contra la paz, contra la Carta de las Naciones Unidas y contra la seguridad en Oriente Próximo y la seguridad de todos los europeos.
Takis, Giorgio, qui faisait partie de la délégation, voudrait ajouter quelque chose.
Okay, I just want to add something on the question raised. We have to understand that the problem in Palestinian territory is the occupation. And since Hamas did really bad things, we have to understand also that Hamas is the result of the occupation. So we have to concentrate on the necessity to work against the occupation. What we can do now here, you as journalists and us as parliamentarians, we have to raise our voice towards the boycott against Israeli products. There is a petition on that. It's a global try, and we have to work on that, to put the pressure on the Israeli government. And secondly, we have to ask the Commission and the European Union why European countries are still selling weapons to Israel, and why they do have programs, common programs with Israeli government dealing on new weapons, which new weapons they use on the experiments, which is Gaza and the people who live there. These two things I wanted to share with you. Thank you.
Donc, je regarde le journaliste pour voir s'il y a encore des questions. Il ne me semble pas, donc je donne à Laura.
Hi, I'm Lara Malvesi from the Spanish Press Agency. So what are your proposals in the parliamentary work in order to suspend the association agreement between the EU and Israel? What are the next steps?
Well, what we need is we need support from MEPs from other groups outside of our own to understand the context within which the association agreement, the legal framework within which the EU and Israeli relations are established. And we need people to look at Article 2 very closely, because there's no point in us going through a process whereby Article 2s and association agreement are put in place, and we say to people if there are violations of human rights that we will suspend them, and then we do not take that action. We have to be able to stand over what we do, otherwise it is a fallacy, and we are all involved in that, in bringing that about. So what we want to do is to bring a debate and a discussion among our fellow MEPs in Strasbourg, and we want to work collectively with those MEPs who care about what happened. And based on our common humanity, we cannot allow an occupier to exist in that way without doing something about it. We have to take responsibility, or otherwise we are complicit in what is happening in the Middle East and what is happening in Palestine.
I just like to add very briefly, the association agreement between EU and Israel was never put into practice in the terms it was defined. It was always an exception situation. And if it would happen with any other country, probably it wouldn't be accepted at European level. But in the case of Israel, even that we never in practice an association agreement which fulfills what is written in each and every article, it means nothing, and it has to mean something at some point. It couldn't be just dead words in a blank paper. It has to mean something, and if it doesn't mean nothing, the fact that we had 7 wars in such a short period of time, it doesn't mean nothing what happens in Gaza recently for the association agreement. So it's better to the European institutions just to say that all the things which were approved concerning the occupied territories and the non-recognition of it, and also the exceptions which have been accepted, they are the rule and not the exception. So we want to make it the rule, and if it is to be the rule, is as it is written and not as it is being dealt with in practice, and that's the problem. The association agreement, as it is written, never went to practice between the EU and Israel.
Younous Omar Jules veut ajouter un mot.
Merci. Je faisais partie de cette délégation pour représenter la délégation française de notre groupe. Je voudrais faire 3 observations brèves. La première, en d'autres temps et d'autres lieux, pour échapper à notre responsabilité et peut-être notre culpabilité, on avait la possibilité de dire « nous ne savions pas ce qui se passait ». En l'espèce, nous savions ce qui se passait et nous avons laissé faire. Et nous savons ce qui continue de se passer actuellement à Gaza et nous continuons de fermer les yeux. Lors de notre déplacement, j'ai rencontré le consul de France à Jérusalem qui m'a autorisé à dire que de son point de vue, il faudra 20 ans. Peut-être 25 ans, peut-être encore plus, pour reconstruire Gaza. L'Europe n'a été ni au rendez-vous des espoirs des Palestiniens. Et de toutes nos rencontres, nous avons vu qu'il y a encore un espoir important sur ce que l'Europe peut faire. Ni au rendez-vous des espoirs, ni au rendez-vous de ses devoirs par rapport à ses propres valeurs qui, permettez-moi de vous le dire, en prennent un coup sérieux. La deuxième chose, la deuxième remarque que je voudrais faire, c'est que ce voyage, ce déplacement, était aussi un déplacement au cœur d'un pays, au cœur du pays de l'apartheid. C'est le racisme palpable, permanent, les humiliations quotidiennes pour les Palestiniens. Nous avons approché cette réalité de nos yeux. Et peut-être même que nous n'avons certes pas été à Gaza, mais nous savons ce qui s'est passé. Nous avons eu des rencontres à l'UNRWA. En revanche, je ne m'attendais pas à voir un pays où l'apartheid est aussi caractérisé. Et c'est peut-être ce qui est le plus important à retenir. Nous sommes dans une situation véritablement coloniale. Et la dernière remarque que je voudrais faire, c'est qu'aujourd'hui, il n'y a pas de processus de paix en vue. En revanche, il y a un processus de colonisation continue, de colonisation accélérée. Et nous, envers et contre tout le droit international. Et là encore, nous avons une responsabilité pour que cela cesse rapidement, car autrement, je crains que la manière dont cette colonisation est pensée par les Israéliens, de manière, au niveau, pour ceux qui ont fait un peu de stratégie militaire, de manière remarquable. La vie même des Palestiniens ne sera plus possible. Je regarde souvent les documentaires animaliers et je vois que de nombreuses espèces ont disparu tout simplement parce que l'homme a rendu leur vie impossible par la conquête de leurs espaces vitaux. Nous risquons à terme de nous retrouver dans une situation où les Palestiniens n'auront plus de possibilité de vivre.
Miguel Diegas aussi, il avait quelques mots à dire. Après, on arrête la conférence de presse parce qu'on est en retard.
Non, très court, juste pour rajouter que donc, nous avons rencontré beaucoup d'associations, nous avons discuté avec plein de gens et nous avons rencontré un peuple culte, un peuple qui est politiquement très mûr et qui comprend l'impasse actuelle des négociations et qui comprend également qu'une condition fondamentale pour sortir de l'impasse, c'est la pression des pays, notamment de l'Union européenne. Donc ce sont des gens qui comptent sur les pays de l'Union européenne pour forcer ou faire pression pour que Israël tienne et cesse de boycotter les négociations. J'insiste aussi sur le fait que les droits humains ne sont pas respectés. Les droits humains font partie des plusieurs traités qui sont signés entre l'Union européenne et Israël, et notamment, plus que les droits humains, dans le plan d'action signé en 2006, Israël, donc c'est écrit, ça fait partie du plan d'action où il y a un compromis de la part d'Israël pour respecter les résolutions de l'ONU, donc reconnaître l'État palestinien avec les frontières de 1966. Juste une petite information, durant les 5 dernières années, les exportations d'armements de l'Union européenne, des pays de l'Union européenne en direction d'Israël représentent quelque chose comme 105 milliards d'euros. Donc 105 billions of euros. Ça représente à peu près la moitié du PIB israélien qui correspond à 200 milliards d'euros, juste pour vous donner un peu la dimension de ce qui est en jeu. Merci.
Martina, it's okay.
That picking up on the comment of some of the comments that was made, I think it's really encapsulated in one thought for us all. If we refer back to 1948 and how genocide was defined, it's defined as the impartial or the partial or whole destruction of a people. And what we are seeing happening with the Green Line being encroached, and the settlements and apartheid walls and apartheid buses and apartheid roads and home demolitions and people being slowly but surely moved out of their homes, slaughtered and killed in the way that they are. 33 parliamentarians, Palestinian parliamentarians who have been voted by the people, who are interned without trial under administrative detention. This European Parliament must do more than just condemn. And it's simply not good enough for us to say that this is some kind of tit for tat. And, you know, if we could stop one thing, then the other thing would, you know, would go away. When we know that the only way to resolve this is to get to the core problem. And the core problem is occupation. No matter what else and how else you argue about it, that's the core problem. The occupation, the settlements, and the potential genocide of the Palestinian people. And you see, in years to come, there's no point in any of us sitting here saying we knew about it, we could have done more, and we did nothing but debate and discuss who was right and who was wrong.
Merci à tous. On arrête ici donc la conférence de presse. Toute la délégation reste à votre disposition pour des interviews ou d'autres renseignements individuels. Merci beaucoup. À la prochaine.
Pablo,